It was a brisk London morning, the kind where the fog seemed almost alive, curling and twisting around the gas lamps like some sentient being. I had just returned from a brief walk when I found Sherlock seated by the window, pipe in hand, eyes fixed upon the street below, as if expecting an event yet to occur. The energy in the room was tense but quietly electric, the sort that always preceded a case of significance.
Ah, Watson, you arrive precisely when the world's subtle intricacies are most fascinating. Did you notice the peculiar angle at which that cab drew up outside? It's not mere chance. Every movement in London has its meaning if one knows how to observe.
I must admit, Holmes, I have yet to master your gift of observation. The cab seemed ordinary to me, merely a vehicle delivering passengers to their destinations. But you, as always, perceive patterns invisible to the casual eye.
Elementary, my dear Watson. When one understands the nature of human behavior, no detail is too small. That cab carried a gentleman of some importance. Is a has. Notice the mud upon its wheels, the particular smudge upon the door, and the hurried manner in which the man alighted. Each clue suggests urgency and discretion in equal measure.
Urgency and discretion, you say? Then we are likely in the presence of some confidential matter, perhaps another governmental intrigue, I dare speculate. Yet, Holmes, even I can observe the ordinary. It is the interpretation that eludes me.
Precisely, Watson. And this matter, I suspect, involves the Admiralty. There is a particular type of document whose absence could shake the very foundations of national security. Bruce-Partington plans, for instance, are not the sort of papers to vanish without consequence. Eager.
Oh, Bruce-Partington plans? I confess, Holmes, I am unfamiliar with the specifics, though I recognize their significance in matters of naval defense. Pray tell me more, for the urgency in your manner is unmistakable.
They are schematics, Watson, blueprints of utmost sensitivity for a submarine recently developed by our government. If these papers were to fall into the wrong hands, the implications would be dire, potentially catastrophic. And it seems that they have, indeed, vanished.
Vanished. That is a grave development. And what leads you to believe that you, of all men, would be called upon to recover them? Surely, Scotland Yard is already engaged in such matters.
Ah, my friend, that is where the subtlety of this affair lies. Scotland Yard operates with diligence, but often without the nuance required to detect the faintest whisper of deception. Their methods are robust yet blunt, whereas deduction requires precision and finesse.
I have observed, Holmes, that your methods, while sometimes bewildering to me, are invariably effective. It is as if you see the threads connecting every event in London, weaving a tapestry that only your mind can comprehend in full.
Indeed, Watson. And it is precisely that tapestry which leads me to conclude that someone has orchestrated the disappearance of the Bruce-Partington plans with meticulous care. The question is not merely who, but why and what manner of opportunity they possessed. Uh,
Quingly, then, Holmes, we must consider both motive and method. For instance, would the thief be an agent of a foreign power, a spy in search of leverage, or perhaps an insider exploiting the trust of the Admiralty?
all plausible, my dear Watson, yet we must consider the evidence, not conjecture alone. Observe this, the letter left at the scene, penned in a style designed to mislead, yet betraying subtle inconsistencies only a careful eye would note. That the handwriting suggests a practiced forger attempting to imitate another's hand, and the choice of words is deliberately archaic, as if to suggest a gentleman of learning, whereas the phrasing betrays impatience and haste.
I see your point, Holmes. Even the most artful deception cannot escape your scrutiny. But I'm still curious about the nature of the scene you described. Was there any physical evidence beyond the letter that might guide our understanding of the criminal's methods?
Several points, Watson. First, the missing papers themselves, of course, which were stored in a secure safe. The safe had been accessed without any sign of forced entry, suggesting intimate knowledge of its mechanism. Second, a trail of mud and faint footprints leading to the railway tracks. And third, the curious absence of any disturbance in the immediate area, implying careful timing and meticulous planning.
Intriguing. Footprints leading to the railway tracks suggest movement, perhaps a rendezvous or a method of transport. Holmes, you never cease to astonish me with the breadth of your deductive reasoning. How do you intend to proceed in unraveling such a complex web?
We begin with what is most tangible, the railway. The tracks provide a linear path, and linear paths often reveal connections invisible elsewhere. Each station, each carriage, each passenger may hold a fragment of the puzzle. We must consider schedules, timetables, and human habits, for even the most careful criminal cannot entirely escape the predictable patterns of daily life.
Then we must investigate without delay. And yet, Holmes, I cannot help but marvel at your calm demeanor, even in the face of what could be deemed a national crisis. I, for one, would be much more anxious were I in your position.
Anxiety, Watson, clouds the mind. Observation demands clarity. Emotion may alert us to danger, but deduction requires detachment. Consider the facts, ignore the superfluous, and follow the trail wherever it may lead.
Your clarity is inspiring, Holmes, though I fear my own reasoning may not always match your incisive logic. Just, Olkan Dow, when does but to learn from you, as ever. And so, shall we proceed to the railway to examine these footprints firsthand?
Precisely, Watson. Every step along that line may reveal what words and letters conceal. The journey may seem mundane, but in the mundane lies the extraordinary, and in observation lies the key to revelation. Grab your coat. The morning will not wait, and neither shall we.
As we left 221B Baker Street, I could not help but notice the familiar fog clinging to the London streets, yet today it seemed more like a vein, hiding secrets only Holmes could perceive. I followed him, eager to witness the unfolding of another extraordinary adventure, my heart beating with anticipation of what lay ahead along the tracks that might lead us to the missing plans.
Look, Watson, notice the alignment of the tracks with the river beyond. The reflection, the shadow of the bridge, the scattering of debris, all these are not random. Each detail provides insight into movement, into intention. Watch carefully, for patterns are everywhere, though most men fail to perceive them.
Darkers. I strained my eyes, attempting to see what Holmes so easily discerned to do. The river shimmered faintly in the morning light, yet it seemed to me merely a reflection. Holmes, however, pointed out subtle disturbances, indentations in the gravel, slight displacements in the foliage, each suggesting a hurried passage.
Precisely, Watson. Every indent, every shift of matter tells a story. Consider the footprints near that ballast. They are unusually deep, suggesting a man of considerable weight, moving with care, yet urgency. Note also the mud pattern. He was returning along the track, then changed direction abruptly, likely startled by some sound.
Your attention to the minutest detail is, as always, remarkable. And yet, Holmes, I notice your eyes flicking to a nearby telegraph pole. Code out. There too must be significance.
Indeed, observe the wire. It is slightly dislodged, as if brushed against. It may have been incidental, or it may indicate a moment of contact, perhaps a signal, perhaps merely a precaution. Either way, it is worth noting. Even the smallest anomaly may become the key to understanding the larger design.
I nodded, recording each observation with painstaking care. Every detail Holmes identified seemed insignificant at first, yet I trusted implicitly that these threads would weave into the fabric of understanding. And thus we continued along the tracks, each step bringing us closer to a truth hidden beneath the ordinary facade of London life.
You see, Watson, the world is but a vast network of subtle signals. The untrained eye overlooks them, the ordinary mind dismisses them. Yet for the patient observer, every detail is a clue, every shadow a hint, and every silence a declaration. The Bruce-Partington plans are but a puzzle. The pieces lie scattered, waiting to be found. Start.
And so we walked, the fog curling about us, the distant clatter of trains echoing through the morning. I realized that, under Holmes's guidance, even the most commonplace journey could reveal secrets beyond imagination. My mind raced, striving to match his insight, yet always trailing behind the brilliance that seemed second nature to him. Clayt. The morning fog clung stubbornly to the rails as Holmes and I proceeded along the embankment. Each step seemed measured, as if the ground itself anticipated our scrutiny. Holmes's gaze moved constantly, darting to the minutest irregularities. A bent twig, a faint depression in the ballast, a smudge of clay that suggested human passage. It was a kind of observation I had yet to fully master, though I strived to follow as closely as possible.
Notice the way the mud has been compressed here. A man of substantial build, moving hurriedly yet deliberately. The direction suggests he had been returning to the tracks after a brief detour. Observe also the faint scuff on that rail spike. It implies a sudden change of footing, likely in reaction to an unexpected sound.
Indeed, Holmes, I had seen footprints in the mud before, but you deciphered the story within them as though reading a page of a book. There was a rhythm, a narrative, in the marks that completely eluded me. How could a simple impression in clay convey such complex human behavior?
Every mark is a sentence, Watson. Every smear a paragraph. One need only know the language of observation to interpret it. The criminal who took the Bruce-Partington plans is methodical, yet even he cannot escape the physical laws that govern movement. Each misstep, each touch, each hurried gesture leaves a trace.
And what of the telegraph pole, Holmes? You noted yesterday the disturbance of its wires. Is there a connection to these footprints, or is it merely another detail awaiting context?
Both, Watson. We ants has sex. I suspect the individual sought to send or receive information here, perhaps signaling an accomplice. Notice the slight scratch along the pole near where the wire was dislodged. It is consistent with a deliberate act executed with haste but enough care to avoid overt detection.
A signal, you suggest? That would imply the presence of an accomplice or external contact waiting to intercept the plans. Such foresight is extraordinary. Most would leave the scene in haste, yet this arrangement indicates both patience and cunning.
Precisely. The sophistication is not merely in theft, but in orchestration. The plans themselves were carefully removed, the timing calculated to coincide with minimal surveillance. Scotland Yard may look for obvious signs, but we must track subtle movements, minor inconsistencies that reveal the criminal's true pattern.
I see. See? Then the railway, the telegraph pole, the footprints, all of these are threads we must follow, weaving together a picture of the culprit. Holmes, I'm curious as to your next step. Will we pursue the trail by foot along the tracks or seek the cooperation of railway personnel who may have witnessed something unusual?
Both, Watson. The footprints guide us physically, but human testimony can illuminate the mental processes behind those movements. The station masters, porters, and even the ticket collectors may offer insights we cannot derive from mere observation alone. People often notice details without realizing their significance.
Then we shall seek these witnesses. I confess, Holmes, that even with your guidance, I feel a certain trepidation. The consequences of failure in this case are far more severe than those we usually encounter. The fate of naval security rests upon recovering these plans.
Fear, Watson, clouds judgment, focus, observation, and deduction. These are our tools. Trepidation may accompany action, but it must never dominate it. Now, note the angle of that embankment. The mud displacement shows where our subject paused, likely to survey his surroundings. Timing, posture, and environmental awareness are all recorded in the earth itself.
Astonishing, Holmes. I had walked these tracks countless times, yet not once had I considered the narrative encoded in the mud, gravel, and grass. Your ability to read such signs as if they were the pages of a book never ceases to amaze me.
And now, Watson, observe the direction of the footprints toward the bridge. See how the stride length changes. This indicates urgency, yet careful control. a man accustomed to exertion, yet aware of the need for discretion. The slight inward turn of the toes suggests a natural gait, one that may identify him if we obtain a photograph or witness testimony.
Remarkable. The physical nuances Holmes are subtle yet revealing. Every step encodes characteristics, habits, and even temperament. I'm beginning to comprehend how a mind like yours can reconstruct events with such fidelity from minimal evidence.
Minimal, Watson, yet not insignificant. Observe the twig snapped near the rail and the displaced stone along the embankment. The criminal adjusted his footing to avoid unnecessary noise. Small details such as these separate an amateur from a professional. It is in the mastery of small, deliberate actions that the most formidable criminals distinguish themselves.
Then we may infer Holmes that we are dealing with a highly capable individual, perhaps trained, fairs, or at least remarkably intelligent. The theft is no hasty mischief. It is calculated, deliberate, and executed with precision.
Correct, Watson. And this is why the trail, though faint, is invaluable. Even a meticulous operator cannot erase every clue. Every minute irregularity offers a path to understanding. Consider the mud. The consistency suggests the thief carried an object. Likely, the plans themselves, protected in some form to avoid creases or damage. The depression matches the weight of rolled documents, not a bulky parcel.
Then the plans were transported carefully, perhaps hidden under a coat or within a secure case. That aligns with your assertion of deliberate method, Holmes. And the real connection? I imagine that was employed to facilitate rapid movement out of the city, minimizing risk of detection.
Indeed, the railway provides speed, anonymity, and direction. Observe the pattern of disturbances along the track side. They align perfectly with the timing of the early morning trains. Our subject is exploiting the known schedules to move undetected. Notice the spacing of the footprints in relation to the ballast. It matches the stride one would adopt to maintain balance while avoiding detection from passing trains. Ooh,
Unbelievable, Holmes. Your calculations are precise to an almost unimaginable degree. The level of observation, timing, and inference required to reach these conclusions is simply staggering. I feel fortunate to witness such deduction firsthand, though I confess my own mind struggles to keep pace.
you will catch up, Watson. Observation is a skill that improves with practice, patience, and disciplined attention. The key is to remain detached, to record without bias, and to interpret patterns rather than rely on mere intuition. The mundane conceals extraordinary truths, and it is our task to uncover them.
And so we pressed on, Holmes leading the way with unwavering focus, each step measured, each glance calculating. I followed, notebook in hand, attempting to document every detail, every subtle variation in the landscape that might indicate the presence of our mysterious thief. The fog had begun to lift slightly, revealing more of the tracks, more of the subtle irregularities that formed a trail only Holmes could fully comprehend.
Watson, notice the broken twig over there, by the river's edge. It aligns with the previous disturbance on the embankment. Our subject paused momentarily, likely checking his surroundings or waiting for a signal. The alignment is too precise to be incidental. Consider also the orientation. He faced north, perhaps toward the city, perhaps ensuring that no observer from the south could detect his presence.
Indeed, Holmes, I see the twig now, its position almost imperceptible, yet its implications profound. Each pause, each glance, each step has meaning. I marvel at how you reconstruct behavior from these fragments of the environment, as if the landscape itself were a chronicle of human activity.
Hey, uh, precisely, Watson. And this reconstruction is essential, for the ultimate goal is not merely to recover the plans, but to anticipate the thief's next move. Patterns repeat, habits persist, and in these repetitions lie the keys to capture. Watch closely, for the next anomaly will reveal intent as clearly as any confession.
I strained my eyes along the track, searching for the anomaly Holmes predicted. At first, There was nothing but the steady rails stretching toward the horizon, yet slowly, subtle changes became apparent. A stone slightly displaced, a faint smear of mud on a metal beam, and then, as Holmes indicated with barely perceptible movement, a small indentation in the ballast suggesting a sudden pause, a hesitation, a moment of calculation.
There it is, Watson, the hesitation mark, a signature of deliberate action. It tells us, more than a casual glance might suggest, the subject was aware of surveillance, cautious in motion, yet committed to action. We are beginning to see the mind behind the footprints, the intelligence behind the movement.
I could scarcely keep pace, yet I recorded every observation. Each mark, each misstep, each subtle disturbance formed part of a narrative, one I was only beginning to comprehend. Holmes's genius lay not merely in seeing, but in interpreting, in connecting the dots invisible to all others. Today, along this fog-laden railway, I felt both awed and humbled by the depth of his deductive powers. Simply calculation. So be, take that, didn't ideally. As Holmes and I approached the station, the morning had cleared to a crisp light, revealing the bustling activity of railway workers, porters, stubbling, good just a shushed, and passengers hurrying along the platform. The whistle of an approaching train punctuated the air, mingling with the rhythmic clatter of wheels on the rails. Holmes's eyes, sharp and unwavering, swept the area as though the throng itself contained hidden messages.
Observe carefully, Watson. Each man, each motion, each glance holds information if you know where to look. The station is a microcosm of human behavior, and here, amidst the ordinary bustle, we may discover extraordinary truths. The individual who removed the Bruce-Partington plans moved along these very platforms. Patterns repeat in predictable ways.
Indeed, Holmes, I noted the hurried manner of a porter, the meticulous inspection of luggage by another man, the calculated movement of a clerk glancing toward the signal box. All seemed trivial. Yet I knew from experience that each held potential significance when viewed through your analytical lens.
Precisely, Watson. Now, let us begin with the staff. The porters, accustomed to their environment, often notice things that the public overlooks. Begin with the man at the luggage trolley. His eyes, though directed at his work, betray recognition of unusual occurrences.
Very well, Holmes. I approached the porter, a stout man with calloused hands, and introduced myself politely. Good morning, sir. Might I ask if you observed anything unusual on the platforms this past night or early this morning?
Good morning, sir. Well, now that you mention it, I did see a gentleman moving rather strangely near the north platform. He seemed cautious, glancing frequently, and carried a long case under his arm. I thought it odd at the time, but assumed him to be a traveller in a hurry.
Holmes, the description matches what we observed along the tracks. A long case, careful and deliberate motion, vigilance in movement. This corroborates our initial deductions.
Exactly, Watson. Ask him the direction the man took after leaving the platform. The angle, timing, and behavior will provide insight into his next moves and possible rendezvous points.
I inquired of the porter, who paused thoughtfully. He headed toward the west end, near the signal box, he replied. I saw him glance up and down the platform, then step quickly toward the rails, as if checking no one followed.
Note the caution, Watson. This is not an ordinary passenger. The deliberate glances, the measured pace, and the awareness of surveillance indicate professional skill, experience, and a strong understanding of human attention.
Indeed, then we must examine the west end, near the signal box. Holmes, do you intend to speak with the signalman? His vantage point would provide an unobstructed view of the tracks, and he may have witnessed details we cannot infer from footprints alone.
Precisely, Watson. Let us approach him with care. The signalman's occupation requires vigilance, and his testimony, if extracted properly, may illuminate the subject's movements with remarkable clarity.
We made our way to the small, weathered hut at the far end of the platform. Inside, the signalman, a wiry, sun-baked man with sharp eyes, was engaged in his work, levers moving in precise rhythm. Holmes greeted him with his usual calm authority.
Good morning, my friend. I trust you have been well. Might you recall any unusual activity near your post yesterday or early this morning? Any individual behaving in a manner inconsistent with regular passengers?
Well, now that you ask, there was a gentleman carrying a long case. He appeared agitated, glanced at the tracks often, and lingered near the ballast. I noticed he paused as the train passed, then continued along the side, avoiding the lamp's light. It seemed to be someone who knew the yard well.
Holmes, the plot thickens. A man acquainted with the station layout who acts with knowledge and precision. This corroborates our growing suspicion that the thief is no ordinary criminal, but one trained and deliberate.
Exactly, Watson. Observe the consistency, the footprints, the behavior, the cautious movements. All indicate premeditation, familiarity with the environment, and a calculated approach. Now, inquire whether the signalman noticed the time of his passing or any companions.
The signalman thought carefully. It was shortly before 6 o'clock, he replied. I did not see anyone with him. He seemed alone, moving with purpose and stealth. If he had an accomplice, I would have noticed.
That confirms our expectation, Watson. Solitary, deliberate, and cautious. This is a mind accustomed to strategy and calculation. Let us now consider the next stage, the transfer from the railway to another mode of movement. Trains are linear. They transport, but they also constrain.
Holmes, you speak as though the criminal is already several steps ahead in your mind, anticipating our thoughts and movements. How do you reconstruct intentions from such scant evidence?
By considering the human factor, Watson, predictable patterns emerge from even the most careful operators. The thief must reach a secure location without detection. The most likely routes involve timing, disguise, and concealment. Observe. He carried the plans in a long case, suggesting that he intended to avoid suspicion and inspection.
I followed Holmes's reasoning, noting the logic in every step. The case, the timing, the solitude, all pointed to a carefully orchestrated escape. Yet the question remained, where was he headed and who might be waiting to receive the stolen plans?
Consider the possibilities, Watson. Safe houses, accomplices familiar with the railway, and locations accessible to the docks or secluded areas outside the city are prime candidates. The criminal has chosen a method minimizing exposure to casual observation, maximizing control over each moment.
Then, our task is twofold. Follow the physical trail and anticipate his strategic choices. Holmes, the complexity of his reasoning rivals your own in brilliance, yet we must outthink him to recover the plans.
Precisely, Watson. Let us proceed to the west end of the platform. There, the ballast, embankment, and surrounding structures may contain overlooked evidence, small items, marks, or subtle disturbances that can illuminate the next stage of his journey.
As we examined the area, I noticed minute signs, a bent nail, the indentation of a boot, and slight abrasions along a wooden fence. Holmes interpreted each with ease, reconstructing movements as though watching them unfold in real time.
Here, Watson, observe the slight scuff upon this fence. The thief applied deliberate pressure, likely to balance himself while scanning the surroundings. Notice the mud pattern on the lower rail. It indicates he paused, crouched slightly, then proceeded in a calculated trajectory toward the bridge.
Beginning, every motion, Holmes, every subtle shift seems imbued with purpose. Even the hesitation, the careful adjustment of footing, speaks of a mind anticipating detection at every instant.
And that is the essence of deduction, Watson. By analyzing behavior, environmental interaction, and small physical evidence, we reconstruct both action and intent. Observe, too, the slight curve of the footprints. He avoided certain stones, suggesting knowledge of weak boards and loose gravel that might betray his passage audibly.
I marveled at his insight, realizing that even I, who had witnessed countless cases, could not have inferred such precise detail. Holmes' mind perceives both the tangible and the latent, reconstructing entire narratives from fragments overlooked by ordinary observers.
The Bruce-Partington plans, Watson, are not merely a matter of lost papers. They are a challenge to reason, a puzzle of human intelligence and ingenuity. To recover them, we must anticipate, observe, and deduce at every turn. Each subtle clue may lead us to the thief's next move, or to his undoing.
And so, with the station behind us and the tracks ahead, we pressed onward. The fog had lifted entirely now, leaving a clear view of the distant ridge and surrounding embankments. Each footfall, each glance, each recorded observation brought us closer to the invisible mind orchestrating this theft. I felt the tension in the air, the thrill of pursuit, and the growing certainty that Holmes would leave no stone unturned in unraveling this most delicate of intrigues. The afternoon had grown heavy with a lingering mist as Holmes and I continued our pursuit along the tracks. The fog roared in waves from the river, obscuring vision yet sharpening the senses in other ways. Every sound, the distant whistle of a train, the creak of metal rails, the faint splash of water along the embankment seemed magnified, charged with potential significance. Holmes moved with his usual precision, eyes scanning the terrain, lips pursed in contemplative thought, every step deliberate.
Watson, notice the spacing of these footprints as they approach the bridge. The rhythm changes. Our subject has adjusted his stride, likely due to the incline and the loose gravel. This alteration is not random. It is a controlled modification of motion, indicative of a practiced hand. Every step reveals intention. Every nuance exposes character.
Indeed, Holmes, cast. I observed the slight tilt of the heel, the subtle inward rotation of the foot, and the careful avoidance of loose stones. Each motion, seemingly trivial, communicates meticulous planning and acute awareness of his environment. The criminal is clearly adept at moving with minimal detection.
Precisely. And notice the direction of his glance. The faint indentation in the mud reveals a sudden pivot toward the riverbank. He is not merely moving, he is surveying, anticipating, calculating. The individual we track is as much a thinker as he is an actor.
Your insight, Holmes, transforms simple footprints into a detailed map of the mind behind them. I could not have imagined reconstructing behavior with such precision. Yet each observation seemed to tell a story, a narrative as vivid as any tale I had chronicled.
Watch, Watson. Here at the foot of the bridge, observe the disturbance in the gravel. Notice how it differs from the other impressions. The shift suggests that the subject paused, lifted the long case carefully, and adjusted its angle. The weight distribution indicates he was protecting the contents, likely the Bruce-Partington plans themselves.
Remarkable, Holmes, even the posture of a man carrying an object can yield insight. The care, the balance, the subtle redistribution of weight, it all reveals intent, caution, and knowledge of what he carries.
And consider the environmental context, Watson. The fog, the shadows, the noises from the distant dockyards. All would influence movement. A professional thief or one trained for espionage anticipates such factors. Each action is deliberate, harmonized with the environment, calculated to avoid attention.
Then the trail continues along the embankment toward the river. The suspect likely intends to board a vessel or rendezvous with an accomplice. Holmes, the complexity of the plan grows with each observation, yet your mind untangles it with clarity that seems almost supernatural.
Not supernatural, Watson, deduction. We consider what is known, eliminate improbabilities, and focus on the patterns the criminal cannot conceal. The next clue may be minute, yet decisive. Observe the indentation near the river's edge, a triangular shift in gravel, suggesting an object placed or removed, a signal, a package, or a temporary resting point for the case.
I knelt to inspect the mark, noting the subtle abrasions and disturbed earth. Indeed, Holmes, the triangular indentation is unlike the footprints, almost geometric in precision. This implies a deliberate pause, a calculated action, rather than mere chance. Nine inquest, compulator.
Exactly, Watson. Such subtlety is characteristic of someone accustomed to strategy. Consider timing, the train schedules, the shadows cast by the afternoon sun, the proximity of workers who may observe. Hugh. Each factor influences movement, yet he accounts for all, leaving only the faintest trace behind.
Holmes, then our pursuit must be equally strategic. observing, recording, anticipating, matching his meticulousness with our own. The fog, while hindering visibility, also amplifies our senses. Every sound, every reflection, every displacement becomes significant.
Precisely. We proceed with caution, yet with confidence. The trail is faint, but continuous. Observe the debris along the embankment. Small fragments of paper, a disturbed stone, a bent nail. Each indicates passage and action, corroborating our observations from the station and the tracks.
Then, following these signs, we approach the old dock area. Abandoned warehouses line the water, their shadows long and imposing in the afternoon light. Holmes moves silently, his eyes scanning, hands adjusting the coat collar, lips pursed in calculation. I could sense his mind at work, connecting every observation, reconstructing the movements of the thief with uncanny precision.
Watson, note the footprints along the warehouse wall, and Byler, and now. They are shallow but precise, suggesting light tread or the use of soft-soled footwear to minimize noise. The individual is acutely aware of his surroundings, likely trained to avoid detection by both human and environmental factors.
I crouched to examine the impressions. They indeed differed from ordinary footsteps, flatter and carefully spaced. Holmes, the criminal's training is evident in every minute detail, every deviation from ordinary human motion.
Correct. And the pattern suggests a deliberate path toward that warehouse. Observe the faint scraping mark at the door threshold. Likely the point where the case was briefly set down, or perhaps adjusted to fit a specific opening. Timing, force, and placement are all calculated.
Holmes, the precision is astonishing. Every action, every pause, every adjustment seems orchestrated to avoid error or detection. It is as though the man's movements are choreographed, each step rehearsed in advance.
Indeed, Watson. And now consider motive. The theft of the Bruce-Partington plans is not merely opportunistic. It is deliberate, with purpose, likely directed toward a specific recipient or agency. A skill and caution employed indicate someone connected to espionage or military intelligence.
Then we are not merely tracking a thief, Holmes, but a professional whose intentions may carry grave consequences for national security. Each step, each calculation, each tiny action may be part of a larger strategy beyond our immediate observation.
Precisely. And it is our task to anticipate that strategy, to remain one step ahead. Notice the orientation of the prints near the warehouse dock. They converge toward the riverboat berth. The case is being moved, not discarded, suggesting imminent transport via water.
Holmes, the connection to the river clarifies much. The river offers both speed and concealment, providing the thief with a means of moving the plans quickly, avoiding populated areas, and remaining invisible to casual observation.
And observe the wear on the boots, Watson. The scuff marks suggest repeated movement along uneven surfaces, likely prior experience in handling such cases. This is not a man improvising. This is a man operating with practiced skill, likely under instruction or habit.
I noted the details as Holmes indicated. Every scuff, every mark, every adjustment in posture, the patterns converge toward a clear picture, a professional, trained, deliberate, yet meticulous in execution.
Now, Watson, the final stage of this segment, observation of the warehouse itself. Note the doors, the hinges, the locks. Any disturbance may indicate recent entry or exit. Combined with our trail, we can reconstruct not only the movements but the method employed to transfer the Bruce-Partington plans from station to dock.
We approached the warehouse with care, scanning for signs of forced entry or unusual activity. Holmes's eyes moved from hinge to threshold, from floorboards to nearby crates, piecing together evidence invisible to ordinary eyes. I felt a growing tension, a sense that each step brought us closer to revelation and to confrontation with a mind as cunning as Holmes's. Messed!
Observe, Watson. A slight gap beneath the door, barely noticeable yet sufficient to suggest recent passage. There is also a faint residue on the wooden threshold, likely transferred from the long case. Combined with the footprints, the scuff marks, and the subtle adjustments to the environment, we are closing in on our subject.
I recorded everything with meticulous care, marveling at Holmes's ability to reconstruct complex sequences from fragments invisible to the casual observer. The Bruce-Partington plans, so elusive moments ago, now seemed within reach, each clue leading inexorably toward discovery.
And so, Watson, the final challenge remains. Anticipate the thief's next move, deduce his methods, and recover the plans before they leave our jurisdiction. The trail is nearly complete, the mind behind it brilliant yet fallible. Observe, analyze, and we shall succeed.
How to lodge as we prepared to confront the next stage of our pursuit. I felt the familiar thrill of anticipation, twig, tempered by the knowledge that the stakes had never been higher. Holmes, calm and unflinching, led the way, his mind already reconstructing the path of a criminal whose intellect nearly rivaled his own. I followed, notebook in hand, ready to record the final revelations that would bring the Bruce-Partington plans back to safety. The late afternoon cast a dim, amber light across the dockyard. As Holmes and I approached a warehouse, every step measured, every breath taken with cautious anticipation, the footprints led us unerringly to the river's edge, and the faint impression of the long case suggested we were closing upon the thief. The mist curled around the wooden crates and metal rails like a shroud, lending an almost spectral quality to the scene.
Watson, observe the alignment of the footprints with the door threshold. The subject has moved methodically, yet in haste, careful to avoid detection, yet pressed for time. Note also the indentation in the ballast near the river bank. It matches the measurements of the long case. The plans are nearby, either in the case or transferred momentarily.
I peered toward the door, noting the faint shadow of movement within. My heart quickened. Holmes, as always, moved with unerring calm, analyzing every detail, calculating every possible scenario. It was as if the entire dockyard existed solely to reveal secrets to his mind.
Now, Watson, patience. The criminal expects haste, we shall give him none. Observe the subtle shift in light upon the floorboards through the crack in the door. See the slight reflection, the evidence of recent passage. He is inside, yet unaware of our presence. Our approach must be precise, quiet, and decisive. No.
We crept closer, noting the smell of damp wood and the faint odor of coal smoke lingering in the air. Each creak of a floorboard, each distant splash against the riverbank seemed amplified in the tension of the moment. Holmes paused, hand raised, signaling me to remain still.
Watch the arrangement of crates, Watson. The spacing indicates deliberate concealment, creating shadows and lines of sight favorable to the intruder. Yet there are gaps, irregularities, evidence he did not anticipate. It is here we shall act, using the advantage of observation against him.
Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, carrying the long case with careful hands. The thief moved deliberately, yet a slight hesitation betrayed awareness of a presence. Holmes, with the calm of one solving a puzzle, stepped forward.
Good afternoon, my friend. I believe you have something that belongs to others. I advise caution, for the path you have chosen leads to exposure and consequence.
Holmes, you are as observant as they say. Indeed, the plans are here, but you are too late to prevent their journey. Unless you can best me at my own gain, they will depart this dot before nightfall.
Not so, Watson. Observe, analyze, and deduce. Every step you took, every pause, every subtle adjustment betrays intent and method. I know the case is in your possession, yet I also know your route, your timing, and your strategy. There is no escape for the meticulous observer of human nature.
Holmes's words, calm yet penetrating, seemed to unnerve the thief. I noted the precise posture, the defensive angle of the long case, and the calculated hesitation, every action under scrutiny, every motion exposed.
Now, pace the case down gently. Do not attempt further concealment. Your methodical approach is evident, but so is the path you have taken. From footprints, mud impressions, the slight scuff of your boots, and the adjustment of the case, I have reconstructed every movement since the station.
Incredible. How could you know so much?
elementary, my dear sir. Each detail, trivial to the untrained eye, forms a narrative. The spacing of your steps, the rotation of your doors, the altered weight distribution. Each point tells a story. The subtle disturbances of the ballast, the displacement of a twig, and even the faint abrasions upon the threshold all speak of intent, timing, and execution.
I watched in awe as Holmes demonstrated the full power of his deductive reasoning. Even the thief, composed and clever, could not withstand the precision of Holmes' mind unraveling his every move.
The Bruce-Partington plans, sir, are not mere objects. They are a puzzle, a challenge of intellect. You may have calculated, you may have planned, yet the traces you leave are indelible to an observant mind. Every action has consequences, and every clue leads inexorably to its source.
You are extraordinary. I underestimated the depth of your perception.
Extraordinary only in the patience to observe and the rigor to deduce. Now, place the plans on the dock. There is no need for further subterfuge. Your accomplices, if any, will find you constrained by circumstance, and the plans shall return to their rightful guardians.
Slowly, the thief complied, setting the case down upon the dock with deliberate care. Quote, Holmes approached, examining the surface for any tampering, confirming the contents remained intact. The tension in the air began to ease, the fog of anticipation lifting as the resolution of the pursuit became imminent.
Watson, note the minor abrasions on the case. These confirm movement from the station, along the tracks, and finally to the dock. The pattern aligns perfectly with my deductions. No deviation exists unaccounted for. The narrative is complete.
I could scarcely believe the clarity with which Holmes reconstructed the entire journey from scatter. Ed, chab, faint traces, footprints, mud, displaced twigs, scuffed thresholds, all combined to reveal the meticulous method of a criminal who thought himself invisible.
The lesson, Watson, is simple. Observe, record, and interpret. Even the most subtle details, the smallest anomalies, reveal truth to those who understand the language of deduction. The Bruce-Partington plans are safe, not due to brute force, but by intellect, observation, and analysis.
As the thief was apprehended and the case secured, I felt a profound admiration for Holmes's genius. It was not merely the capture, but the method, the reasoning, and the foresight that left me in awe. Every detail mattered, and every observation had been translated into action with unmatched precision.
Watson, remember this. The ordinary conceals the extraordinary. The invisible is merely unnoticed. By observing carefully and deducing rigorously, we can uncover truths invisible to others. And now, with the plans returned, we may reflect upon both the criminal mind and our own pursuit.
As we left the dockyard, the setting sun painted the river with golden hues, a serene contrast to the tension of the day. Holmes walked ahead, calm and unflinching, already contemplating the next puzzle, the next case. I followed, notebook in hand, grateful to witness a mind capable of rendering the most intricate of human actions transparent through logic and deduction.
Watson, never forget, every detail is a clue, every shadow a possibility, and every hesitation a revelation. The world speaks constantly. It is merely for us to listen, observe, and understand.
Indeed, Holmes, Lentonale as a main is positioned, and as we returned to Baker Street, I reflected upon the events of the day, the precision, the intellect, the subtle interplay of observation and deduction. I realized anew that in Holmes' presence, even the most elusive of mysteries could be unveiled, and even the most careful of criminals could not escape the clarity of his reasoning. The Bruce-Partington plans were safe once more, and London unaware of the quiet drama that had unfolded along its fog-laden docks and railway tracks. I felt pride and wonder, not merely at the resolution of the case, but at the extraordinary mind that could decipher the world's hidden truths so completely. And so ended this adventure, another testament to the brilliance of Sherlock Holmes, the master of deduction, and to my own ongoing education in the subtle art of observation.